Well, this is the old guy here, and this is summer porch sitting 201. It finally cooled down a little bit today after about a week or a week and a half of a pretty warm, sticky, very hot weather. Heat advisories are out, and heat does funny things to people. In the summer heat, uh, you can't do much, and by the middle of the summer, uh, all the teenagers hanging out have run out of their summer money. All those that don't have a summer job and haven't been working, and the dog days are upon us. And back in the old days, the Still River, there were teenagers or young adults who had cars, pretty snazzy cars too, would go cruising up and down the main street or the main drag of Still River or any town similar to that, going from one drive into another. There were two drive-ins in Still River, one on each end of the town, that had waitresses that came up and took your order from your car window, put a tray out, as you remember, like the old A&Ws. I think I've seen one around in Rhode Island that still had what was called curb service. Well, anyway, one time there was this fellow. The story always stuck with me. We went to a funeral of his mom. And he was sort of a older middle-aged fellow. And we had a funeral reception at his house. And we're standing out on the back porch looking out the backyard. And there's this, like an old-fashioned kind of a grave, with the hump on it and like a big white cross. And we went out and looked at the grave, and I saw the name on it. And it was the same name as the fellow's house, the son's house. So we came back, and we're having finger sandwiches and some drinks and stuff. And he comes out, big smile on his face, and which is kind of funny for a funeral of his mom, but she lived to be about 97 years old. And we're standing there, 3 or 4 of us, and we're going, who's that? Whose grave is that out in the backyard? He goes, oh, that's mine. And we looked at him like, what? He goes, yeah. You see that grave? And he goes, yeah, we sure did. And he says, that's all my troubles, worries, problems, and that I buried out there. And I put that grave out there to make sure, to remind me to keep them buried. And that was really interesting to me. I didn't like it when I first heard it. I thought it was like, bury your troubles and don't deal with them, and then they'll come back and haunt you later. But it wasn't like that. It was more of, he was a very religious man, very faithful, and he found joy in it because you could see it in his face, And after a number of years, that he kept coming back to me, and I find that over the years that it's true. It's like you need to, put things behind you, and every day live a new day and bury your troubles behind you. Not that you haven't dealt with them, but like, time moves on and they're over, and those problems and things that you can't deal with, they really not should not be in your hands. You know, it's like the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and to know the difference. And I think he knew the difference, but it was so funny that it came back to me now. Uh, it goes along with the, you know, saying of, you know, rear view mirror. You can look into the rear view mirror, meaning, you know, looking into the past from where you came from, but don't stare too long, because you know what happens when you stare in a rear view mirror too long. You don't see where you're going and you crash. You know, so it's good to look at the past, but then you have to bury it and, you know, leave it in its grave. Don't go digging it up again. You know. So that was that story. But in the dog days, when big crowds of young folks were cruising up and down Stu River looking for excitement, sometimes you found excitement, or excitement got created from the most unusual places. And this one was stories were being put in the Danbury News Times of UFOs being seen over the area on the east side of town, and strange happenings around a reservoir called East Lake, and they would happen at night, and it centered around people would see these strange lights, and then see these strange lights running through the far side of the lake, and loud noises, and all kinds of stories developed. The howls, and there's a monster loose, or there's an alien loose landed there, and somebody said they found a dismembered cow, and pieces all over the place, and like doors to houses removed, and the large scratch marks on the doorposts, and things like that. And you didn't know if they were true or not, but every night, it was in the local Still River paper for almost a month. Crowds would, about 10:30, 11, would all go up to the Causeway Road of East Lake Park. People would get out lawn chairs and picnic food. The ice cream trucks and hot dog trucks showed up, and big crowds of young adults that looked like they were all from the movie Grease. You know, you had the big tough guys that looked like John Travolta in Grease with the Lucky Strike cigarette pack rolled up in their white t-shirt and blue jeans, and motorcycle riders that looked the same with scantily clad girlfriends on the back with engineer boots and big belts, and so one night even a guy took a pot shot at the light. It looked like one of those yellow construction lights, and they said there was a lot of them missing in the area. So one night, you know, they all piled up there, and the big tough guys, about 30 of them, got up and said, "We're gonna go in there and see what this is finally." And so they all go marching up the road, and strutting up the road, and sashaying up the road, and we're standing there watching this, and they go out of our sight because it's dark. There's no street lights, and you hear this awful banging around and crashing way up the road. You hear these loud screams, and about 2 minutes later, people shine their lights to the road, and these big tough guys come running back. Looks like they've seen the ghost of their grandfather or worse, screaming, running back with their hair sticking straight up, and you know, clothes torn. It said, "It's after us, it's coming after us," and they're running down the road. They hop in their cars and they peel out of there. We're watching this, you know. So that was the excitement back in Still River.